If you've been wondering why you've been experiencing the things you have in life, fear, anxiety, doubt, perhaps you're not in a place that you want to be financially, in your relationships, with friends and family, then my topic for you in this video today is that it's all about the journey. Now, for some of you that might irritate you because you're like, well, I hate my journey at the minute and I'm not interested in it and I don't want to have this journey. And so what I'm going to try to do in this video is give you some thoughts to ponder that might help you to make more peace with that idea that it's all about the journey. Now, before I dive into this deeper, I want to just bring your attention to where I am. I find, I'm here in North Wales and by this absolutely gorgeous lake, Llyndinas, and I haven't had a 9-to-5 job in 10 years. Now, that's not to say that my dear brother here hasn't been supporting me for the past year or so whilst we've been on our quest and our journey, and also my dear mother and my parents. But for a massive part of my journey, didn't have a 9-to-5. I still don't, and I won't get one. And now, the first thing that you could ask yourself is, well, how and why? How is it that one human being on the planet doesn't have to have a 9-to-5? And why is it that another person will live until they're 75 doing a 9-to-5 job, until they eventually retire? What's the difference between these human beings? What's the difference between this experience of being free and being able to live life on your terms, or being enslaved to a 9-to-5, being told where to be, how to be, what to do? And now the answer to that question, what is the difference between those human beings, is of vital importance to a person's self-empowerment. And so this leads us nicely into the topic of belief, and I'm going to link belief in with 4 very, very important questions. And so the only difference truly is what an individual believes about themselves and about their lives, and about their life, and the reason why they've gone down the path they've gone down. Now, for a lot of people, you may have pondered the questions I'm about to mention, some of you may not. And these 4 questions are: who am I? Why am I here? What is the point in my experience? And what is this physical reality that I find myself in? Because if you can ponder those questions and seek answers, you can start to empower yourself to understand the purpose of your experiences, again, why you're here, who you truly are, and what actually this physical reality is that we find ourselves in. Because this is what changes a person's life, okay? This is what changes a person from having to work a 9-to-5 to not having to work a 9-to-5. I used to work in a very intense job. I won't say what it was, but in that job I remember being in the centre of where I was, and I was looking around the room I was in, and I just became super consciously aware. And I just turned around and I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this job, or this, it was insane to me, the fact that I was even present, that I was even in this room. And the minute that I made that decision, the entire universe conspired to get me out of that job and support me financially up on my path. Now, some of you might call that fate and destiny, and you might say that, well, I don't play a role in that. And it's a tricky one, that one, because it's really an entirely different video. But the bottom line is that this reality is about choices. It's about understanding will, and it's about understanding what choices you have. Now, that's not to say that it's all going to be complete sunshine and rainbows, which is why the title of the video is It's All About the Journey. Because in this exploration of why we are having our experiences, why we find ourselves in the apparent locations that we find ourselves, the real and only answer is it's all about the journey. And you'll hear a lot of motivational people talk about this in regards to going to a destination, and you think there's a place you want to go, but when you look back, it's actually the entirety of the journey that meant the most to you. That's the thing, right? The journey is the thing that brought you the fulfillment, that brought you the excitement, that brought you the thrill and the pain sometimes, and the suffering sometimes, and the despair sometimes. Again, this is the spectrum of experience, and slowly but surely we filter out what we do want to experience and what we don't want to experience, and all it takes is choice. But in order to do this choice element, you have to understand who and what you are. And so if you believe that you are worthless, if you believe that you are incapable, if you believe that you are not worthy, if you believe that you can't, unfortunately, by the nature, the true law and the nature of our reality, it must be brought to you. Because this beautiful unconditional world, this gorgeous lake and these mountains, this beautiful unconditional world, it must serve God, and you are that, right? You are a fractal, non-diluted of the Creator. I mean, that giant burning light in the sky is an excellent way to observe the principles of the truth of our reality. Look, let's not get all hocus pocus with this, shall we, or flamboyant. If you just meditate and ponder upon the nature of the sun, you'll realise that that rises in the morning and it sets in the evening, and whilst it's in the sky, don't forget the moon as well. Moon also has a beautiful set of principles and reflections, no pun intended, to it. But the sun itself, unconditional love, light, vibrancy. You know, most people who lay in the sun find themselves feeling joy, feeling happiness, feeling relaxed, feeling in bliss, you know, because they're laying in and they're feeling the beautiful warmth of the sun. You know, we're warm-blooded creatures, and so we enjoy the warmth of the sun. So my point of this is purely about understanding who and what you are. If you can meditate upon these ideas of what am I and who am I and why have I got my experience and why am I here on this planet and what is this planet, you can start to empower yourself, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to remember who and what we are. Now you might find that weird, like, James, what are you talking about, remember? You know, like, well, why would we forget? What's the point in forgetting? Well, it comes again, ironically, or non-ironically, back to the title of this video. It's all about the journey. You know, the whole point of forgetting is just so that we could have a journey. You know, if you look at the nature of human beings, we've got our theatre, we've got our songs, we've got our music, we've got our songs and music, we've got our TV shows, films, stories, books. We love stories, we love characters, we love to explore what people do and the choices that they make and the characters that they embody, you know. And so this is really, you might look at that in movies and things, this is what your life is about. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Your life is about understanding this is a journey. So in doing so, you can start to write your story. Now, you might ask, well, James, how on earth do I do that? You know, I've asked for things for years and years and years and it hasn't happened. Well, this, in our world, unfortunately, it has been laid forward to make it a lot more challenging. You know, it's not like we were all born in forest gardens having all of the beautiful abundance that we actually is our divine right. You know, a lot of us were born in council estates, cities, you know, we were born into education systems that were designed to enslave and control our mind so that we can be manipulated to think certain things, you know, like, for example, working grades, you know, your value as a human being is assigned by what grade you get. You don't get good grades, you're less valued. You're not apparently going to get the better job, you're not going to get the pay, and that means that your life isn't going to be as good. You know, like nature asks for you to have any grades or any marks scored against you. Nature, the sun itself. Do you think that asks you to do an exam for it to shine on you? It shines on you regardless. You know, that's the whole point of the truth of our reality. You know, we're running around with religions and cultures and we've got all of these ideas about life. To me, it can be so simple and basic. It's right there. You know, if you want to know what the truth of our reality is, it's right there, it's in the sky. That's the whole point of it being there. You know, it could be hidden in some mountain, you know, that you'd have to go and search and discover. But no, as long as you're outside, there it is. You know, it's the point of being in nature, you know, the point of our reality. And myself and my dear soul family have been doing a few channelings recently about knowing your place in nature. Not in a derogatory sense, as in an actual, you know, knowing your place. The point is that when you know your place in nature, that you are a walking incarnate God that's here to experience. You know, some people find this very upsetting. You know, very upsetting, the connotation that we are on an equal playing field with a loving creator. You know, to me it is a little bit nonsense. I know that might, apologise for saying that, but I'm going to stick by it. It is a little bit nonsense because when you look at a father or a mother who truly, my mother and father are pure wonderful examples of this. When you have a mother or father that loves their child unconditionally, it's a reflection of what that is. It's unconditional love. It means I'll do whatever it takes to love and nurture the being that I brought into the world. And the same is the relationship between us and our Creator. I don't do that in quotes to be, of course I understand that, beyond my very currently, in quotes, separate, in quotes, limited human avatar, I'm working with forces outside in the other world. I'm working with energies and consciousness that is also not quite within this realm of experience. But the bottom line of this video is, number one, it's all about the journey. Number two, if you want to start to understand the questions that we talked about, who are you? What's your purpose here? What's the point in this reality? And what actually is this reality? Start with there. Like, I'm not talking about worshipping it. There's no need to do that. It's just that is the pure logical and emotional representation of unconditional love right there. Everything around us is growing. The trees grow, which provide the fruits and the vegetables for us to eat. So that's, again, the point. Unconditional. Without it, our experience ends, or we go on to something else. So if you're feeling upset, depressed, if you're feeling sad about your life and why it's been where you are, where you're at, just understand that the true nature, not the false one, not the government-based things, not the school system-based things, not the false beliefs and ideologies of certain parents and certain religions and certain X, Y, Z, not that. That's all false. Like, that's going to upset a lot of people because they'll say, like, religion has truth in it. Well, of course, everything has truth in it. But I'm just saying, right there, forget it all. Be an individual empowered soul. It's right there. You don't need me to tell you that that is what our true reality is. It's unconditional. So that means that if our reality is unconditional, that means that that's what we need to keep us going. Then that means that internally, you see the pineal gland, light receives light, gives off light, yes? The pineal gland is also the sun. That one's a bit more far out there, so I'll discuss that in another video. But the pineal gland is also unconditional. Whatever you think, whatever you believe, whatever your perception is of yourself, ultimately becomes your reality. So stay the course. Understand that it's a journey, and understand that this is a part of your experience, and just like I've not had a job for 10 years, this could also be your experience. You just have to choose. So, my deepest love, I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care of yourselves, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.